Bristol signal the end of the Mayor's dream for a new underground.
And what's being done to provide cleaner and cheaper energy for all of us in the future. And this week I'm joined by the Conservative leader of Swindon, that's Councillor David Renard, Councillor Claire Young, the Lib Dem, a leader at South Gloucestershire, and Councillor Emma Edwards, the Bristol Green Party group leader. You're all very welcome. Nice to see you. Never seen so many councillors in one room together. Be with you in a moment, but first we've got a train to catch. Here it comes. We're talking about Bristol's proposed underground. The city's public transport has never really been much to shout about, has it? Which is why Bristol's Labour mayor has been calling for a new underground system. But his plans were dealt a significant blow recently when the regional mayor, also Labour, Dan Norris, completely ruled it out. Here's Pete Simson.
A Monday night edition of Points West. And Dan Norris is on to talk about buses.
In one word, are we going to get the underground in Bristol?
No.
It's the sort of final question that's rarely answered properly. No?
No. No. No.
But on this occasion, he said no.
No, no, no.
There's lots more still to come, including...
You might wonder why the seemingly simple answer is such a big deal. Well, because it totally contradicts what the other mayor has been saying about a so-called mass transit system in Bristol for the past 6 years.
We have no viable mass transit system in the city, and we've got to give people a viable alternative.
We will deliver the mass transit system, a promise to the city that is both deliverable and essential.
We can build tunnels under the city. The question is, does the cost of the tunnels...
Since the underground plan was announced by Marvin Rees in 2017, we've had some pretend maps, a couple of feasibility reports and some foreign trips to drum up support. But there's also been a whole lot of cynicism, whether from Bristol's finest...
I don't believe it ever happened. It's pie in the sky, innit? Pie in the sky.
Well, more digging up, more rolls.
the council don't have that kind of money to pay for all these new ideals that everybody keeps putting forward, and nothing ever happens.
Or opposition politicians.
Is the next project a spaceport? Is that the plan for Filton Airfield? It's a wonderful idea, and I can't be wrong, it's fantastic. I just don't think it's achievable, and I wonder how much taxpayers' money is going to be spent to realise it's not achievable.
Whilst the spending on this idea has so far been relatively meagre, later this month the two mayors are due to meet to potentially sign off on a further £15 million. And whilst one is still right behind it, the other has always been rather more reticent.
I need convincing too. We are not going to spend money on things that are not needed and won't make a difference, and that's partly what my discussion with the leaders is about, because we've got to work out, we've got to make some tough choices about what our public transport system looks like in the future.
The issue, like many big projects, is the cost. Bristol's mayor wants tunnels built under congested places like Gloucester Road and Bristol Templemeads, a price that's reportedly been put at an astonishing £18 billion. That's according to a secret document being held by the combined authority. Now, I've asked to see a copy of this document, but my request was declined. So here's one I made. I'm told the figures shown are accurate and that the report says a purely overground system would cost up to £2 billion, whilst an underground with tunnels would come in at nearly 10 times that amount. Now, this report has been played down when I went to see the Bristol mayor earlier this week.
The starting point is, what does a modern city like Bristol need? We've got one of the fastest growing populations amongst all the core cities. Transport is already a massive challenge for Bristol. It's one of the areas of lowest satisfaction for the people of Bristol, and a mass transit system has to be a part of our solution.
The regional mayor, when asked will Bristol get an underground, said very clearly and categorically no. You're saying he's wrong?
I'm saying we are going to be having some conversations, about that, to make sure that we fully understand where we're both coming from, that we have a shared understanding of the scale of challenge that this part of the world faces, and I would also say the sheer scale of the opportunity this part of the world has in front of it.
The thing is, other cities do have mass transit schemes, whether Newcastle's metro, Manchester's trams, or the brand new £19 billion Crossrail in London. These make Bristol's efforts less absurd and the mayor's frustration perhaps more understandable. But to steal his own phrase, you have to work in the world as it is, not how you want it to be. Unfortunately, this scheme won't happen without the full support of the regional mayor, and he's just said no.
Thank you, Pete, and thank you for watching Points West, as you were. So we've got two mayors saying two different things, and the regional mayor said no. Let's come to our guests in the studio. As a Green councillor, Emma, in Bristol, what do you think?
Well, I thought it was very interesting there what Marvin said about how the lowest satisfaction in the city is about transport. And Labour have been in for quite a while in Bristol. And I just wonder, you know, over the last 5 years, we haven't seen much action on transport. And we're hearing as councillors what people want. And this is an answer to a question people aren't asking, the underground.
He wants an underground. I mean, that's big, that's big thinking. Would you actually be against it?
Yes, because, you know, we've got to look at immediate solutions. You know, people want solutions now. We know that this would take many, many, many years and many billions of pounds. This is what this secret document has said. You know, we've got a bus system that really needs sorting out. People need buses now. People need active travel. They need investment in cycle lanes.
Claire, sorry to interrupt. Claire, let's come to you. I mean, you're in South Gloucestershire, so presumably you would benefit, because I'm sure there'll be a branch going up to those big towns where people come into work in Bristol. What do you think?
I'm not convinced. I think it's a red herring. The only people who seem to be benefiting at the moment are the consultants who are being paid to write the reports. We need solutions to the problems of congestion and air quality and poor satisfaction. We need them now. That's not. We need them sooner. And what that realistically means is fixing our broken bus network, helping people to use active travel, walking, cycling, and those sorts of solutions. It's not about something that isn't going to be delivered for many, many years.
But you've got a dream, haven't you?
It's one thing to dream, but we need practical solutions now. And I think our bus system is suffering because, you know, the Conservative government has not funded buses and public transport in general properly. You know, the Bus Back Better scheme the funding for that was cut by more than half by the middle of last year. So it's not getting the investment it needs nationally, and we need to, I think, rather than getting involved in these political spats locally, we need the Metro Mayor, the West of England Mayor, to be concentrating on finding solutions that work for local people now.
OK, well, let's go to David Renard. I mean, this won't affect you up in Swindon, although it would be nice to get on a tube and be able to come to you perhaps one day in the future, who knows. Why is this country so rubbish at public transport?
Well, I wouldn't say it's rubbish at public transport, but in terms of supporting public transport now, we absolutely do need to do that, because if we're going to achieve net zero in terms of climate change, we need to invest in public transport. We need to get people out of their cars and onto other forms of public transport and active travel. Now, as far as Bristol's concerned, whether that's an underground or whether it's something else, or whether it's a combination of things, I think that's for the people of Bristol and their politicians to decide.
It obviously wouldn't be, David, it obviously wouldn't be funded locally. It would have to be funded nationally, because we're talking about anything between £4 billion and £18 billion. But do the provinces outside London, when they've got a fantastic underground network, do we all think too small?
Well, I think there's a risk of that, but if we take Swindon as an example, we bid into government in order to get a new bus interchange in the town centre, which is under construction right now. And OK, we're only talking millions here for this particular project, whereas the Bristol one is going to cost billions potentially if it goes ahead. But I don't think you can think short term and long term. As Mayor Rees said, you've got to be practical and pragmatic.
All right,
and you've got to do both.
Let's come back here. I mean, it's interesting. You talk about the buses need fixing and all that, but bus use is going down.
Because people
or it hasn't recovered since before.
Because
COVID.
people have different working patterns. They're not going into the office every day, maybe now. They're doing hybrid working, so it's not surprising that bus patterns are going down. And also, we've seen cuts to services, and we've seen lots of reliability problems, which has been down to the bus driver shortage, which has many causes, including.
But people have given up on buses, haven't they?
Well, because of lack of reliability. If we can have a network that works and delivers reliable services that go frequently to where people want to go, then I think we can get people's confidence back.
Do you reckon? Is that right, or is it people actually fed up with buses and they prefer their cars?
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, I don't think people are fed up of buses. I think they're frustrated with the current situation with the buses, and that is partly down to the bus driver shortage. But also, these are private companies that we're dealing with. The Green Party, we would want to see buses brought under public ownership, because then we can look at things like fares, which are really high.
You pay out all the shareholders to do that.
Well, I think there are steps towards that. So the Liberal Democrats actually brought a motion that we supported to look into franchising the buses as a step towards that. But at the moment, it's having debates with private companies.
Sorry to interrupt, but our time is so short. I'm just going to ask you one question, really. I can start with you, David. Which mayor do you back? Metro mayor who says no, or Bristol mayor who says yes?
As I said, I think something has to be done. Doing nothing is not an option.
Okay, all right. That wasn't quite right. I wanted the battle of the mayors.
I don't back either mayor, but I want Dan Norris focusing on buses.
No mayor, and
I agree. I want Dan Norris focusing on buses.
Okay, well, we'll have him on the programme and I'll ask him about that soon, I hope. Thank you for the time being. There have been some hopeful signs about making our electricity supplies cleaner and cheaper. Progress is